Chapter 24. Wednesday morning, I got up when Devin did, and after what was becoming our habitual morning trip to the gym, went into the shop. I had a delivery coming in today, and I needed to be there. Once in the door, I turned on the heat. The timer would have warmed the place before opening, but that was hours away yet, and I didn't want to freeze. In my office, I pulled up the listings for what was supposed to be coming in today, and printed them out. I wanted them available to check against the inventory once it arrived. Looking around the office, I sighed. It was a mess. Papers scattered across my desk, and dust had settled in the week and a half since I'd last been in, making it look almost abandoned. Setting the listings aside, I spent 20 minutes cleaning up the room, making it presentable. If there were no problems with the delivery, I'd be calling in the client. She was eager and would probably be in this afternoon. She'd been looking for an armoire like this one for several years. A knock sounded on the outer door. Assuming it was the delivery man, I continued what I was doing, knowing either Gavin or Nickie would answer and take care of opening the loading door. It would be at least a few minutes before I was needed. I finished up in the office before grabbing the paperwork I'd come in for and heading back to the storage area at the rear of the shop to see if they were ready for me. Instead of finding the driver unloading the armoire or a crate sitting, waiting for me, I found Bill talking to Gabriel and Nickie. They all turned to look at me. I thought my truck was here. I lifted the papers for them to see. No, it was me, Bill said. I stopped by to see how you're doing this morning. Good. I moved in close and gave him a hug. Good to hear. He looked around. Did I catch you in the middle of something? Not really. I was cleaning up the office while I wait for a delivery. Then how about we go sit down and talk for a little bit while you wait? All right. I led him back to my small office, opening the door and waiting for him to precede me in, then pushed the door just touching. It was enough that we would have some privacy, but not enough to keep the guys from letting me know when the truck arrived. What's up? I asked. Bill sat in one of the pair of chairs in front of the desk, and I took the other. I wanted to see how you were doing after your visit yesterday. I blinked and frowned. Fine, why? He raised his eyebrows. I know you better than that, Nickie. You insisted on seeing him, you're not going to be unaffected by it. I shifted in my seat and looked away, focusing on a print I'd hung on the wall. It wasn't easy. I never thought it would be. I looked back to him, watching his face closely. Tell me something. He stared back unfazed. That will depend on what you want to know. Since he came back, has there been anything that Brandon hasn't cooperated with? He was silent a few seconds. With the exception of insisting on seeing you before he'd share anything more a few weeks ago, no. Does he even fight back when his punishment beatings occur? Not anymore. He did for the first couple, but I think once he realized we weren't trying to kill him, he stopped. He just takes it now. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. This wasn't as easy as I'd hoped it would be. He wants to earn his way back into the pack. Have you given that any thought? He scowled. I'd be remiss as Anikitos if I hadn't. Can I ask which way you're leaning? It was his turn to take a deep breath. I don't see the harm in sharing with you, but remember, I've not made a final decision yet. But I want to see how you feel first. I looked away. I've got mixed feelings about it. On one hand, he hurt me not just when he had me kidnapped, it's far more than anything physical. I looked back to him. On the other, he seems to be past whatever made him act so horribly before. So, do you think I should let him come back? He asked. I can't justify keeping him locked up. There's no way we'll ever be friends again, but you need to decide what to do. Either let him earn his way back or make him leave for good, but we need to let him go. He watched me for a moment, tilting his head to one side. You're sure that's what you want? What I want? No. But it's what right? He was quiet for a moment longer, then nodded. All right. I'll consider it. On another subject, you've spent more time with him than I have. Give me your impression on this Beau Guidry. He's wanting approval to move here. I hesitated. I didn't want to be seen as gossiping, but I understood that Bill needed to know. You know Bailey Peters? The girl who transferred in with the mine a few weeks ago and was with them the other day? Yes, I remember her. She wanted to get out of the cold in Colorado and transferred with the mine. You've become friends with her, haven't you? Yes. Well, Beau met her a couple weeks ago. They've been dating. Bill's brows shot up and he nodded. You think they'll decide to seal their mating? I folded my arms against my chest. From comments both of them have made to me, I'd say it's a good bet. He scratched his upper lip with one thumbnail. That means if I don't let him come, then I'll likely lose her. Would that be such a big deal? I mean, she's new here anyway. Yes and no. She's a good addition to the pack, she's responsible and an asset. And Beau. I knew he didn't have to answer me, but as long as he was willing and I had time to kill, I might as well learn more about his reasoning and thought process. On one hand, we have a shifter who came to my territory on shifter business and didn't contact me, not a way to make friends. On the other hand, he's not a wolf. Technically, he doesn't have to have my permission to move here. It was only because he had Kitsune business with one of my pack members that meant he should have contacted me in the first place. Okay, I understood most of that. Now, I have another question. If you allow him to come here, because he's done it with your permission, would he become part of the pack? It's not common, but it's not unheard of. Considering that we're looking for enforcers of other animal types, I think it would be a good idea. Something occurred to me. Are there any other non-wolf kitsune in your territory? A couple of deer and a hawk, he waved one hand dismissively. The deer wouldn't be interested in being part of a wolf pack, they tend to be timid. Then there's the whole predator-prey issue. The hawk, well, they're solitary creatures. He laced his fingers together and rested them on his stomach. Either way, they all live farther away, on the outskirts of the territory. Guidry would be right here, among the most of us. It would be best for him and us if we absorbed him into the pack. Makes sense. I nodded. A knock sounded on the office door. I turned in time to see Nickie push the door open far enough to peek in. Truck's here. Thanks, I'll be out in a minute, I said, then turned back to Bill. Was there anything else? He gave me a gentle smile. No. I just wanted to talk to you a little, get your opinion and see how you were doing. I'm good. Really? You look like you're doing a lot better. He pushed himself out of the chair. I stood and hugged him. I am, thanks. Turning, I opened the door and went out to deal with my delivery. Devin and I were in our bedroom, getting ready for bed. Raphael was in the living room, sitting on guard duty. I waited until Devin closed the door before peeling my sweater over my head and tossing it in the laundry basket in the corner. I unbuttoned my jeans and was shoving them off my hips. So, the Aniquitos informed me today that he'll be letting Brandon try to earn his way back. He's letting him out tomorrow. I stopped and turned to look at him. And he flopped down to sit on the foot of the bed and looked at me. I don't like it. Did you tell Bill that? Yeah. He looked at the floor. What did he say? He asked what I'd do with him. And you said. I felt like I was dragging the details from him. It was something he wanted to talk about, or he wouldn't have brought it up, but that didn't mean it was easy. I told him I don't know what I would do. He ran both hands through his loose hair, then let them drop in his lap once more. I don't want him near you. Other than that, we've got no reason to keep him locked up. Did you suggest setting conditions on his freedom? He looked at me, eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Like parole. He gets to go free to live his life here or wherever, as long as he follows specific rules. You can set one of those rules to be he stays away from me if that's what you want. His eyes widened and he blinked. That might work. You, or rather Bill, or even a combination, can set any rules you want. That's the beauty of the system. A slow grin spread across his face. I knew you were more than just a pretty face. He stood and moved toward me, pulling me into his arms. I'll talk to him first thing in the morning, see what we can do. That's good. He tilted his head to one side and narrowed his eyes. You weren't surprised by this. It wasn't a question. I gave him a half smile. No, Bill came to the shop this morning and asked my opinion. I gave it to him. What did you say? I told him about the conversation I'd had with the Aniquitos that morning, not only the part about Brandon, but about Bo and Bailey as well. So that's why the Cajun wants to move here. He lifted his brows suggestively. I was wondering. There was nothing in his background to give any indications. So the background check's done? Yeah, it's not that hard. We use a service that does the bulk of the work, but I make a few calls myself, like talking to his bush leader. How does his tartan feel about his wanting to leave? It hadn't occurred to me that they'd called the bush leader, but it made sense. That way they could find out things that wouldn't be in a standard check, like if he'd been in any trouble the police hadn't been involved in, and what kind of packmate we could expect him to be. He's not thrilled about losing him, but he said he would support the move. Said Guidry's a good man in a fight, but he'd rather not fight. So he likely won't be trying out for the enforcer team. He gave me a wry grin. But at the same time, he'll likely not be one to cause trouble either. Well, that's good, I guess. It's good, at least from my point of view. He won't be causing me problems. He ran his eyes down me, pausing at my bra-clad breasts before continuing on, hot and liquid. Enough about other people. Tonight is ours, and I don't want to think about any of them anymore. I leaned in and placed a soft kiss against his cheek. Fine, but you need to take off your clothes. You ready to go to sleep, or you want a bath? He pulled the loose sweatshirt off over his head. I shoved at my jeans, kicking them off before picking them up and draping them over a chair. I shot him a mischievous grin. Neither.